Oh, I needed that. A nice cup of coffee direct from Mexico straight to the house here in England. It's been one hell of a week, and there are a few things that I'm really keen to share with you about things that have happened and ideas that I'm working on and progress I've made, as well as things that have gone to pot and I want to make changes to over the next week or so. First of all, I've made some fairly good progress with the AI-inspired manuscript that I started in early May. This last week I've been down to Nottingham to see friends at the Nottingham Writers' Studio, to catch up with some other writing friends who I haven't seen for a couple of months since I got back to the UK. One of the things I love about the UK is working on trains. The great thing about the trip to Nottingham is that it's a 2-hour journey from Leeds direct to Nottingham city centre, and you just get to sit and work on your laptop, or in my case it was an Alpha Smart Neo, as the countryside passes you, and you can look out the window and drink your coffee and just enjoy the journey as you work on a project. I made 2 good hours of progress on each of the journeys and had a brilliant time adding to and correcting and updating the manuscript that I started last month. At the moment, I'm working on chapter 7 of the 12-chapter manuscript that was initially drafted, or the chapter outlines were drafted by the use of Claude.ai. And this week I've managed 2 hours on each of the train journeys and another 2 hours in the library on Thursday. The voice and tone of the manuscript is mine. I can pick up each of the first 6 chapters that I've worked through and completed, and I know that there is nothing in there that represents any form of plagiarism. I'm happy with the grammar and the additions that I've made using Grammarly, but then also going back over it, because there are aspects of Grammarly which are not so much robotic, but are a very standardized form of English. It has to be in your voice. It needs to have your character running through the manuscript, particularly if it's a non-fiction story where you are talking from experience and bringing ideas to the chapter that are based on things that you have gone through, and in my case studies that I'm using in each of the sections throughout the book. We're halfway through this current month, so I have 2 more weeks of June and 1 more week of July, which will have given me 2 calendar months working on that manuscript, and I'm absolutely convinced that I'm on track for a new book in 2 calendar months. Something I've never accomplished before, but something that feels really fresh, very personal, and is very much my story as a spare room landlord, putting all that information, all the things that I've learned over the many years of being a landlord, full-time residential and also a live-in landlord in a property like this one, for example. And I know that that's positive. Have a think about your own experiences and consider where you can bring some of your knowledge and experience and wisdom to the table, putting that into maybe something like your notebooks and your journals, your existing stationery supplies, and then expanding and enlarging upon each of the themes that you might put into a non-fiction book that you believe you can sell on one of the international platforms, or you can create booklets or information guides that you can upload to any number of sales outlets, so that you can create revenue based on sharing what you know, putting information out there that is based on your own ideas and things that you've gone through, which other people who want to learn about that process or that activity, they can come to you, and through reading of your manuscript in print format or digital download format, they can benefit by saving time, taking proven shortcuts, saving money and wasted resources through not making the mistakes that they would otherwise likely make without your gentle guidance or the sharing of wisdom that you've acquired in the hard knocks of life, and that they can take value from alongside all the other bullet points and activity suggestions and case notes that you share with them. That's just my perspective as a non-fiction writer. I think you can put that information together in a 30 to 50,000 word package, and you have an initial product. You can see by the Penguin books that I've started sorting these and packaging them, and I'm putting them into little groups of 10 or 15 and sticking those on Instagram, but also putting them on Facebook Marketplace so that people can come along and buy those and simply perhaps take a dozen books. They buy those for a fixed price and they can put those on their shelves, whether they read them or whether they want them for beautiful vintage looks. That's up to them. What are you reading at the moment? I've started with one of the Len Deighton, Bernie Sampson books. Bernie Sampson is basically a spy within the British intelligence service, and this particular series is called Game, Set and Match. The Berlin Game, Mexico Set and London Match. And they feature this brilliant character called Bernie Sampson with his old handlers and colleagues from the East German world prior to and after the Berlin Wall is constructed. I took the Berlin Game with me on the trip to Nottingham earlier in the week, and I managed just under half of the book, but I'm really happy with it and I'm enjoying it. It's nice to be back in the mind of the Bernie Sampson character again, and to remember quite a few of the characters that I'd read 3 decades ago, and it's still a very vibrant, lively and surprising plot line, which I hadn't remembered in any great detail, but lots of the characters and some of the scenes I had remembered. This is an espionage book, but it's also rich in the characters of his family, the colleagues he works with within the government departments in Britain, and the agents that he has history with working in the Berlin sector. Another book I picked up this week, I haven't started it yet, and I don't think I'm going to have scope to do so till next week, is Joseph Conrad, The Secret Agent. This is a classic book. Let me have a look at when it was actually printed the first time. Yeah, here we go. It was first published in 1907 with a preface from the author in 1920. Goodness me. So that's Penguin Random House. And on the back it says, Penguin Vintage Classics. London is under threat. It has become a haven for political exiles and anarchists. The city's inhabitants live in fear of the terrorists in their midst. One such terrorist is Verloc. He is the secret agent who is given the mission to strike right at the heart of London's pride by blowing up the Greenwich Observatory. But his decision to drag his innocent family into the plot leads to tragic consequences on a more personal than political level. I don't know whether you've ever read Heart of Darkness, but I love that particular book, and it reminded me greatly of some of the time I spent in Latin America. But this one I've never read. I'm looking forward to. I used to live in London many years ago after university, and for 4 or 5 years when I was in employment at a bank in the city. So I'm really looking forward to this. I picked it up in my local library, but think about it. This is a book that is still in print. It was first published in 1907. So that makes it obviously a vintage classic. So that's what I've been reading. One of the things that was really wonderful this week is I had an email from Barry. Thank you, Barry, in case you're watching this. Barry subscribed to the channel a while ago, but recently we started swapping a bit of correspondence because he loved some of my stationery videos and the notebook and journaling videos of recent months. And this week he sent me a message using Dropbox, and I opened it because I know his name from my subscriber list, and I was deeply moved by his message. It was a 7 or 8 minute video message to me of him in the countryside near his house talking about how much value he's got from some of the videos here on the channel. I've never had that before. Sometimes people send little messages or put comments after a video, and thank you if you've ever done that, because it makes an enormous difference to me sitting on my own in a spare room or here again in the attic at home in England, just talking to camera. There's just me and you and nobody else really. It's just me and a one-to-one experience with you behind the camera lens for me. But Barry actually took the time to record a message about his own love of stationery and why he has enjoyed some of the videos that are particularly about things like notebooks or this everyday carry bag that I keep pens and A6 notebooks in. And it was lovely to see that, and we've swapped a couple of messages during the week since then, and he's even started with his own YouTube channel, and his first video is called Why I Love Stationery. That's a dream for many of us because we just love these particular things. On Saturday last week, I went to my local art gallery with a friend who I've known for years, and she and I had a wander around Salts Mill. And we went to the stationery department, which is absolute heaven for me, and I picked up some new cartridges for this Platinum pen, which I've had for about a year, and I absolutely adore. But it was great, talking about this love of stationery, to introduce somebody else to this addictive hobby of ours about buying beautiful paper and pens, writing instruments that we can carry on enjoying long after we've purchased them, things that will last for years. Again, as a reminder, this isn't the Cross Century pen that I had as a schoolboy, but I bought this one when I was probably 34, 35 years old. It is a Cross Century pen. I bought it at Dublin Airport one weekend on a Sunday night when I was very tired. It was pouring with rain outside the terminal, and I remember having a nice meal in the airport lounge, having a drink, waiting for my plane, which had been delayed, and I saw this pen and I thought, yes, I would like that in my collection. And it has so often accompanied me into meetings, to one-to-one consultancy sessions with clients. I've used it for notes in libraries, bookshops, coffee shops. I've written lots of letters with it, and it's just another normal, for me, fine point Cross biro, easy to get refills for. It's got quite a few dings and dents in the barrel from over the years. Maybe I've dropped it. I haven't broken open a door with this one like I did with my gold one from childhood one night when I'd lost the keys and I needed to break into our house. But I managed it with a Cross pen because they're particularly strong at the nib end. But this beautiful pen with its Irish shamrock is a lovely reminder of our passion for stationery and all those things which are important to us. I've just noticed there's a green theme going on. My Faber-Castell fine point fountain pen, and of course the Leica A6 notebook from Mexico City that I brought back to England with me. Barry talked about in his video message to me how something I have said apparently, and I've gone back and realised I do say it, something he'd noticed in several of my videos, which is that we as writers and authors, when we are thinking about whether we have what's necessary to create a book or bring a new story to market, is we are really just adding to the conversation. And what Barry said is he was grateful for that message, that he should add to the conversation with his own voice, with his own ideas of what matters to him, in this case talking about his passion for stationery, talking about his love for the written word, for poetry, for drawing as well, which is something he loves to do. He always carries a pen and a pencil. And he showed me how in the notebook that he's using at the moment, which was a Castelli Milano, he carries a cross ballpoint, but also by AT Cross & Co, a propelling pencil that he uses for sketches and for drawings in his notebooks. And I thought that was really nice that he shared so much detail. I think that was the highlight of my writing week, was to receive that message from somebody who enjoys some of the videos, but particularly the ones which are about stationery and journaling and notebooks. And that whole message of you and I adding to the conversation is really important. I've said in a previous video that I just love to record and to share aspects of those things which I really enjoy, whether it's collecting and selling vintage books, or using a regular journal and a wrist bag with my pens in it as a daily carry for me, but also writing my own books and creating my own digital product that has meaning to me, or which I had to write because I felt called to do so. It's been a good week in terms of sections of productivity, selling some vintage books. I've enjoyed the reading of a new book. Reading a new book means I finished the previous one, which was The Uprooted by Nina Lyon, In Search of the Green Man. But I wanted to move on to something else, so I've gone from a non-fiction book into a fiction story. I think it's likely that whilst I'm reading my way through these books over the next probably 3 or 4 weeks, I will have a couple of non-fiction books to break up the fiction reading. The other thing I'm enjoying about this Len Deighton book, The Berlin Game, is the fact that it's based during the Cold War. It's a time when I grew up. It was a time of great worry and concern, but also the public news was very different from the government and political news of the day. So it's nice to read something that takes me back into that particular time of my life and to get a sense of the espionage that was going on behind the scenes. That's me talking about a book that is based in British history of 40 years ago. And of course, I'll then be taking another dive 100 years back by reading the Joseph Conrad book. What are you reading right now? It might be the sense, although the weather doesn't give us any impression of that we are moving into summer. We're halfway through June. We've got a good 8, maybe 10 weeks before the autumn term begins at school and colleges. And so I think there's often a sense that we can enjoy a summer read. What are you reading, and when do you read? I tend to find now that I read better late afternoon, sort of 4, 5 o'clock, when I've finished any kind of writing activity and I just want to relax into a story and give myself a time where there is no sense of work that needs to be done or work that I have left behind during the course of the day, but just to enjoy a story as pure escapism, to put myself into the minds of my character, just to follow that character through a chapter or maybe a couple of chapters if I'm lucky, and stick a bookmark into the text and know that it's there for me, waiting for me patiently for when I come back to that book tomorrow.